at insaneradiodeals.com. Head to the site right now before they run out.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app. 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
TJ, welcome into the Fast Lane.
Hey, thank you, Ed.
Are you familiar with the historical significance of Appomattox?
Yes, I am. It's very important to the state of Virginia. It was an important place for the Confederates, the Civil War.
You're on the right track. Yep.
Yeah. Obviously, there's great high school football history there.
There is. I like how you're modernizing it. It's the end of the Civil War and where our country reunited. Mm-hmm. That's the essence. But you're right. I mean, you can't drive through Appomattox, especially going to Richmond, without seeing the Civil War battlefields on your left and on your right. And it was the site of our TroStall.com Fast Take earlier today, which you already knew, TJ, because I saw you liked it.
Heck yeah, man.
Company man that you are,
Yes,
you get a fist bump because I know that's what you covet every single day when you wake up, said tongue firmly planted in cheek. But it was the site of Unite. Now, let's not kid ourselves. Nothing can compare to reuniting our country, which seems on a larger scale harder than ever. But when it comes to uniting a fan base, it sure feels like James Franklin's arrival in Blacksburg has united Virginia Tech fans with, get ready for the curse word to come out here in the Fast Lane, a level of hope that they have not had in quite a while.
Yeah.
I know. I saw the cringe from you. Our listeners can go back and see it if they missed it live. VTRN Sports Live on Facebook and Twitter and Fastlane Ed Lane as well. But for Virginia Tech, it feels like that's the universal sentiment, that they can at least dare to dream or dare to hope that they have an opportunity to compete at the highest level. Now, do you believe what James Franklin said as far as his ultimate goal will come to fruition?
12 years, a ton of good moments, a bunch of big wins, but decisions were made. And I'm not involved in those decisions. I'm very, very grateful for the time I had, and most importantly, for the relationships I was able to build. I thought we were going to win a national championship there. We were close. That goal hasn't changed. We're just going to go win a national championship somewhere else now.
For a fan base that has never experienced a national championship outside of bass fishing, Virginia Tech welcomes that. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it'll happen. Only one team wins the national championship every year. There are glaring flaws for James Franklin, notably his difficulty winning close games. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. That's one of the realities for James Franklin. And against AP top 6 opponents, 2-21 all time.
Yeah.
Yep, we said it yesterday in the Fast Lane. Yep, I'll strain my voice. Cold's a little better today, but worth repeating. The only worse than James Franklin, you know where we're going because I kind of Freudian slipped it there. The only thing worse than James Franklin's 2-21 record against AP top 6 opponents all time is Frank Beamer, 2-24.
Oh.
But if that's where Virginia Tech winds up with James Franklin, wouldn't they take it? Because if they take it, it means they're back being viewed as a serious football program. And if there is one takeaway, I will go back to what Brett McMurphy said a few months ago. He of On 3 Sports and a guest at times, but not today, here in the Fast Lane. He was talking about what's attractive in college expansion, and in particular from the ACC.
I don't know about you guys. I was surprised he didn't say 24. Because I think, you know, that kind of what Andy laid out, I think we're going to be 20 or 24 with the SEC and the Big Ten. The question is, what is going on with the Big 12 and the ACC, and are they going to be allowed to be part of that group? I think it's very clear. Andy, you want to speculate recklessly about who it'll be? Look, after I reported that this morning, I immediately got a text from someone within the SEC and basically said what I've been thinking, and that is North Carolina and Virginia will be highly contested between both conferences. And where they end up, look, no one knows. It's impossible to say. But I do really believe that they are the most attractive to both leagues. And we'll have to see what happens. Again, 5 years is a long way off. 2 years is, light years way off. But speculate recklessly.
And
That was Brett McMurphy speaking with his On3 colleagues, Ari Wasserman and Andy Staples, a few months ago, right after he made the transition to On3 Sports. And that's where Virginia Tech needed to make the home run hire a priority with James Franklin. Truthfully, I have questions about him in close games. Truthfully, I think it's reasonable to be critical of that. Truthfully, he did win at Vanderbilt with fewer resources and went to Penn State and learned how to operate with more resources. And for Virginia Tech, they don't need to be little plucky old Vanderbilt punching above their weight. They need to be in the category where they are committed to spending the resources it takes to say, look at us, we're big boy football. Because Virginia and North Carolina are larger state schools in their respective areas. They have brand cachet. For the longest time, a lot of schools in the ACC, including ones like Virginia Tech that could not afford to have we're a big deal here, they operated like the punch above your weight class, which has kind of been the ACC's mantra. And for the boutique schools that they have brought in, like your Pitts, which doesn't value playing Notre Dame, as Pat Narduzzi mentioned last week, and they backed it up by getting blown out by Notre Dame. Or your Boston colleges, your Syracuse. Sorry to the Syracuse media mob that's out there, but let's call a spade a spade. Virginia Tech was kind of drifting into that area. Now they're in a spot where you've got a guy who routinely has hauled in top 5, top 10 recruiting classes. He's prioritized it. Who routinely has a history of beating Virginia Tech in the we can just outbid you era of NIL by beating Virginia Tech routinely for top prospects in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Now, one of the questions we asked Damian Sordelette yesterday in the Fast Lane, if you want to go back and check it out, you can, Fast Lane Ed Lane, where you listen to podcasts, because
and guess what? We keep receipts
right there. And that we will ask Chris Coleman of Techsideline.com when he joins us around 5:45. Do you expect James Franklin to be 100% of what he was as a talent procurer, acquirer at Penn State? Do you expect him to be 85%, 73%, 50%? What number are you anticipating? Because if you're getting closer to the 90 to 100%, then watch out. The ACC is clearly ripe for the taking. I mean, again, look at the schools that are dominating the ACC. Florida State and Clemson were so bad 2 weeks ago, they played each other despite having sued the conference to get more money from the TV networks when their games are the highest rated. They were on the non-rated ACC network because they have been that bad. Miami, 10 wins last year, trending to another 10-2 season this year, but losing games like SMU and Louisville or Syracuse last year, which put them in a bind to make the college football playoff. And I am firmly of the belief that I think Miami and Notre Dame can have the same record, and Notre Dame will get in. Brand cachet and bias. It shouldn't be that way, but this is the ACC. They have, pardon the French here, peed down their leg. James Franklin has often done that in big games, but you force other schools to get closer to leveling up with you. And the ACC has needed that. And for Virginia Tech, if what you are at minimum is what they were at the beginning of their ACC tenure, taking advantage of a bad conference to be the best team in a bad conference, at least you're putting yourself in a spot where when the SEC, the Big Ten, or whatever Super League comes to be in 5 years or so, you have to be taken seriously. That is a win for Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I think it starts with winning an ACC title. Beamer won 4 in his time. He won a couple of Big East titles when Virginia Tech was in the Big East. I think that's the best place to start. Win an ACC title, win the Commonwealth Cup against UVA, get Tech fans excited again.
It's sure. I think that's very reasonable. And with the way you can flip rosters and the reported financial commitment that's going to be made. $30 million is what we've heard between NIL and rev share at Virginia Tech. I mean, let's call it what it is. NIL is just extended pay for play.
Yeah.
There are ways to mask it and get around it. I'm sure James Franklin has figured out a way to get it through the clearinghouse, much like the big programs in the Big Ten and the SEC have. If you want to be in big boy football, you do it. It's what you do. Do you think that Virginia Tech's going to do it? And that, let's just throw these out there, Alabama, Georgia, and others are going to idly sit by and just let them do it? No. Let's not kid ourselves. But you're in that camp. You're in the discussion. And I think this is worth noting. Penn State's had 17 decommitments since James Franklin's departure.
Yep.
Florida and LSU have combined for 3. Now, I think you got to take this with a bit of a grain of salt. James Franklin was a better evaluator of talent and developed them well enough to consistently get drafted in the NFL. As wretched as his game management was in big game moments, ultimately, they were still a good program.
Yep.
They were in the college football playoff semifinals this calendar year, last season.
Yeah.
The decommitments from Penn State, I think, are much more a result of could they really improve after firing James Franklin versus Florida's decommitments. Were they that good to begin with?
Yeah.
Are players staying committed because they're worried the next coach is going to come in and say, you're not good enough? And then LSU's is different because so many kids in LSU, it's the only major college football program in a talent-rich, football-starved state. Texas splits it with multiple places. Florida, Alabama, California, Georgia, maybe lesser so. Georgia's the big player there. But LSU is literally the only power football program in that state. So you and I could be the coaches at LSU, TJ, and we would still get a high volume of talent if we have the requisite funds because kids just grow up wanting to play for that program.
Yeah.
So I kind of dismiss LSU.
Yeah.
Regardless of who the coach is, they'll recruit at a high level. It's just unique.
Yeah.
But the decommitments from Penn State speak to the fact that Franklin has relationships, and if there's one thing he does, he prioritizes talent acquisition, which means the team rolling off the bus will be better equipped to maybe not beat the best teams in the ACC, but to be more talented and to beat a lot of the bottom feeders, which creates a baseline of expectations.
Yeah, and I think there were more players attached to Franklin than we realized as well. And I think another thing is LSU has always been at the top of recruiting, but I think a lot of players are waiting to see if they get Lane Kiffin or not because of all the rumors of Lane Kiffin's family going to Baton Rouge and then Gainesville the week prior. So maybe that's the case as well, but I can totally see these Penn State decommits waiting to get to Virginia Tech and Franklin bringing his baggage. Don't be shocked if Drew Alar finds a way to stay another year and leaves Penn State to go to Tech.
I wouldn't be shocked by that, but I'll throw these others out there. I mean, this is such a, by the way, you know what? Let's get into it right now in the Fast Five at 5-ish because it's a sign of the times.
All right.
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kind of ish. Let's start with number 5.
Sign of the times. Last week, Cal stud true freshman quarterback Jaron Kiawe Sagapatele, JKS, recommitted to Cal and pledged not to enter the transfer portal. Gotta love the era in which we lie. But, no joke here, Steve Wilfong, 247 Sports, Pete Nikos on 3. They are the two biggest national recruiting websites between high school and the portal. Would you agree or disagree?
Oh, I heavily agree.
Okay. Both of them have reported that it is doubtful that Sam Levitt will return at quarterback to Arizona State, which we'll get to in number 4 in a moment. But you factor in that. Bob Chesney, I tend to believe he's as good as gone from JMU this year.
Probably.
And I don't think it's a distraction the way it was in prior years because now coaches can go get the bag. So too can the players. My guy, Will Wade, whom I think you saw last night
he's a
down
funny man.
there.
Yeah.
The man beating his former school VCU.
Yep.
He told his players, I'm looking at NC State. And they played hard in the tournament because some of them were auditioning to follow him. And they did.
Yeah.
This is our era. I don't think it's a distraction for JMU. But Alonzo Barnett could be a free agent quarterback. You mentioned Drew Alar. What if Lenore Sellers is a feasible option?
Yeah.
Things have really gone south, and it looks like there's a lot of consternation about the direction, ironically, of Shane Beamer in South Carolina and what they want to do.
Yeah.
There will be options. And if you're committing financially, it starts with the quarterback position.
Everyone's going to want to go the Carson Beck route. They're going to go talk to scouts and see, hey, I know I got hurt. Hey, I know I didn't look good. Do I still have a shot? And they're going to say, no, you don't have a shot at being the first round. Okay, I'm going back to college.
I agree with that. I think the bottom part of the draft will be more challenging to mine than ever before. Look at the NFL trade deadline the last couple of years and even the off seasons. Teams are trading these back end picks as pick swaps because why not?
Yeah.
They're all flyers after about the fourth round
Yeah.
because of these guys that are good players going back to college for an extra
These
year.
are guys that were going to be first round picks coming into the start of the season. Garrett Nussmeier doesn't get that because he's out of eligibility, but these other quarterbacks do.
Oh, you're right. I think you hit the nail on the head with that, TJ. It's a big part of where we are right now. Speaking of where we are right now in college football and in
Number 4.
LSU, Ole Miss looking for clarity on Lane Kiffin's future with the Rebels. They have demanded that they get an answer, or so they speak, but Lane Kiffin denied it today on Pat McAfee about Lane Kiffin's status update. I maintain this. I get Lane Kiffin's family pull to the Florida area and the family ties there. But if I'm Lane Kiffin and I'm leaving Ole Miss where the pressure's lower, you have more leverage. Anytime you flirt with another job, they'll take you back at Ole Miss. You have, as Melissa McCarthy would remind us, at that particular place. LSU is one I would consider leaving for because you're in a more talent-rich state. You're not competing with another power program, and it has a history of winning national championships. It would be hard to turn that one down if I'm Lane Kiffin. But Florida, Miami, if FSU's running, other schools come in, there's a mixture of talent flooding out of Florida, as we will discuss with Uncle Luke. He was going to join us today, but it'll be later this week here in the Fast Lane. It's a different dynamic. So if I'm looking at that, I'm sitting there going, I would go to LSU first, then to Florida, and almost I'd say at Ole Miss over Florida because I think you can still make a deep playoff run at Ole Miss, get paid very well, and much like we've seen with Cignetti in Indiana, you have so much more leverage and power, and as long as the resources are good, what does it matter? I do think some of these flirtations are to remind the schools to keep ponying up for the resources, to keep coaches committed to being able to win games.
Yeah, Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss gave him to the Egg Bowl to give him clarity. So we may know something sooner, unless he pulls a Hugh Freeze, signs something, or says I'm going to stay, and then deep down he just leaves at the last minute.
Yeah, one of those signed extensions to throw people off the scent. Cough, Hugh Freeze, leaving Liberty in the middle of 2022. Meanwhile, speaking of LSU,
Number 3.
former LSU star wide receiver Jamar Chase suspended a game for spitting on Steelers defensive back Jalen Ramsey as the NFL caught that after the fact. The reason why he is suspended for a game is because unlike Jalen Carter at the beginning of the year, and I frankly think Carter should have been suspended an extra game, and this is being said as an Eagles fan, but for a precedent setter, I think it's disgusting. There's no place in football for it. This is absolutely preposterous. But Carter's came right before the game basically began. It was only the opening kickoff. No real snaps from scrimmage had taken place. Meanwhile, the Chase spitting on Ramsey in the middle of the game, it wasn't caught until afterwards. That's why it's suspended an extra game. It's just the season that continues to go south for the Bengals. I'd be shocked if, ironically enough, sticking with the LSU theme here, Joe Burrow comes back for the remainder of this season. It's like Jayden Daniels in Washington. Why? Why rush them to get back when they are your franchise quarterback and you're not coming close to sniffing your goal of making a deep playoff run?
Exactly. Keep him out. Keep Burrow out and protect him as much as you can. He's been hurt too much. You cannot lose your franchise quarterback.
No, you most definitely
There's no franchise quarterback in this draft class, in my opinion.
Meanwhile, speaking of NFL news that has a local angle,
Number 2.
Jacksonville Jaguars have signed veteran safety Juan Thornhill to their practice squad with the potential for elevation. I just continue to reiterate this. This is a guy who's won a couple of Super Bowls from his time in Kansas City and a good run, and just justifiably. He got the bag in Cleveland and he took it, and you have to do if you're Juan Thornhill, because you're seeing now a year or two into getting the bag, he's cut. It's kind of like Jake Grove, big contract from Oakland to Miami, non-capped year. They cut him from an injury, never got a big deal after that. Logan Thomas got the big deal with Washington. Coaching staff changes, injuries, never got an opportunity after that. But God bless them all for getting it. It's the same thing with Juan Thornhill. You're seeing how these guys who were legends in our backyard are jacked. Just a guy in the NFL. It is not to demean these great players from our area. It's to speak to the fact that you go from our area to college, you can still be impactful, but by the time you make it to the pros, it is so hard. The Tremaine Edmonds from Dan River to a sustained NFL career, or Reuben Brown at EC Glass, or others. Those are the outliers. It is so difficult to have that type of sustained career, and it's remarkable to just get there and latch on, even though it looks like it's fleeting for former Alta Vista star Juan Thornhill. Meanwhile, speaking of our backyard,
Number 1.
the Jets are making Tyrod Taylor their starting quarterback, benching Justin Fields as they get ready to face Baltimore in Week 12. They are the last in the league in passing yards. I'm old enough to remember when there were media people, Justin Fields just got a chance in Chicago, if he just got a chance in Pittsburgh. And I get it. The Jets are probably the worst case scenario for any type of quarterback. And Tyrod Taylor is a good fit there because he brings one thing that franchise lacks in pretty much any other area. Maturity. Oh, I'll give a second one. Stability.
Yeah.
And Tyrod Taylor is the embodiment of maturity and stability. Is he a type of guy that's going to be a franchise player? No. But how he handles this is also the example of why they might keep him around in the offseason, because there's a good chance they will be trading for or drafting a quarterback candidate in an era where it's very difficult to do just that.
Yeah, and another positive for the Caleb Williams argument, like for Trey Lyle.
Yes. Why did you have to bring that up?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just giving you a hard time. Pain me as much as it is. Meanwhile, on the cutting edge of NFL news, this guest coming up next, last year, teased the potential that there may be a split coming between A.J. Brown and Philadelphia. We're going to give him his flowers because it's not guaranteed, but it looks even more feasible now. Ryan Leaf, set to join us. By the way, he went to Washington State. They play against JMU this coming Saturday. Is that where you're going to be, TJ, by the way?
Yes, that's my plan.
That is the case. Our own TJ Wilkerson. I'll be going right by you both ways, heading up to Winchester for JF Cavalier Football, presented by TrustLaw.com at John Hanley, 1230 airtime, 100.9 on Saturday. But Ryan Leaf next in the Fast Lane.
Hey, Hokie fans, are you still getting your Hokie sports news from other outlets, or even worse, the newspaper? Well, you're missing out. Tech Sideline has assembled the largest and most talented team to ever cover Virginia Tech athletics. If you want Hokie sports coverage that is second to none and will make you the smartest fan at the tailgate, subscribe to TechSideline.com for just $12 a month or $120 a year. Tech Sideline, all Hokie, all the time, period. Subscribe today at TechSideline.com.
Do you want to experience the benefit of radio and digital advertising for your business, but have no or limited funds to advertise? Let us tell you about InsaneRadioDeals.com. No cash needed. We will advertise your business on our 8 over-the-air AM and FM stations and our digital platforms that distribute out news talk, sports, and classic hits in exchange for gift cards, tickets, or experiences that will be used for your business. This allows you to advertise across the entire Virginia Talk Radio network without any cash needed and to generate a large amount of new business. Last year, we started over 900,000 streams on our online platforms, so VTRN and InsaneRadioDeals.com is the place where your business gets heard. Want to learn more? Call Melinda 434-534-8500 or email info@VirginiaTalkRadioNetwork.com.
Tuesday on the morning warm-up, it's now official. James Franklin will be the next head coach of the Virginia Tech Hokies. We talked about that with Andy Bitter, TechSideline.com. Plus, we also talked about the Hoos and their path to the ACC championship game with Preston Willett. Wednesday, we're talking Commanders. Lake Lewis returns from Madrid. Plus, Liberty is on the brink of missing a bowl game. Bryson Gordon joins us to talk about that in the high school football playoffs. Join us on the morning warm-up, weekday morning, 7 to 8 a.m. on VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, 1320 a.m., and on the VTRN Sports app. VTRN Sports, powered by ESPN Radio. The games play here. NFL action this week kicks off on Thursday with Bills at Texans after Virginia Tech women's basketball. Then Sunday, a tripleheader that kicks off at 12:30 with Colts at Chiefs, Eagles at Cowboys, and the Buccaneers taking on the Rams on Sunday Night Football. Also, Monday Night Football features a matchup between the Panthers traveling out to Santa Clara to take on the 49ers with coverage starting at 7 p.m. Catch all the big games in the NFL on VTRN Sports, powered by ESPN Radio, 93.3 FM, 1320 a.m., the VTRN Sports app, and at your smart speaker, open VTRN Sports.
You need an at-work buddy. Somebody to play your favorite music while you grind away. Classic hits from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Check out Rewind 1039. We play tons of music and never stop the music for more than 90 seconds. Classic hits at work, on the radio at Rewind 1039, or on the Rewind 1039 app.
Hey, this is Kurt Warner, Hall of Fame quarterback, and you're listening to VTRN Sports 93.3 FM and the VTRN Sports app, the home of the NFL all season long.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
I'm not saying it's guaranteed to happen this offseason, but the man we're about to connect with here in the Fast Lane teased the idea about a year ago. I would like to, first of all, apologize as we welcome in broadcaster, including for the CW, and we'll get to Washington State JMU in a moment. Ryan Leaf, we welcome you back into the Fast Lane. About a year ago at some point, Ryan, if I recall correctly, you were the one who teased the possibility of dissatisfaction bubbling with A.J. Brown in Philadelphia and the wide receiver maybe finding a new home. It wasn't last offseason, but it sure seems like this may be the last go-round for him in Philadelphia. They'll give it a go for the Super Bowl, and then afterwards, cap implications and everything else may force that trade, not to mention the dissatisfaction. Just take a round of applause from us, if you don't mind, because if I recall correctly, you're the first one I heard bring this possibility up. And then all this drama that keeps popping up this season, and I know some of it is now being directed at Jalen Hurts, and I get it, but you're the first one I remember, and I keep going back into my feeble memory bank like my better memorized 7-year-old son can do.
Well, listen, it's impossible to look at a team having so much success and having someone so disappointed in the fact that, he's not getting his, that he would rather not win championships than to be at that level. I don't understand it. It might be this new generation where it's just, all about me. But I don't think Jalen Hurts or anybody for that matter on that team is going to miss A.J. Brown much if he isn't on the team next year. I think they'll go right back to work and do the things they need to. And Jahan Dotson is loving the fact that this is going on because he's getting more opportunities, and he'll be the guy that probably steps into that starting role if you do it. So I think the idea of the wide receiver position and the diva mentality that goes with it, it defeats the entire purpose. Yes, you need a big-time receiver. But if you don't have the guy that can get it done to you, if you don't have the rest of the defensive players on the team to make it a unit, I mean, just look at Cincinnati with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. If you don't have the defense, you're just a guy that's out there catching a bunch of balls and not winning anything, and if that's what it's all about, then that's what it's all about. I mean, sure, A.J. Brown would love the opportunity to go to Cincinnati and catch 15 balls or get 15 targets, and then end up not making the playoffs. We'll see how he feels about that. I don't know. It just seems like it's not the right thing, but, what do I know?
Ryan, you would know quite a bit. You've had success. You've also found ways good to deal with it, not as good, and you've been outspoken about that. What overall, from a level of success, can people take away from the fact that sometimes it doesn't necessarily solve your problems? If anything, it magnifies where your issues may be greatest.
Yeah, it's perspective, I think, is the biggest thing. You develop perspective, and you hope that someone like AJ doesn't end up on a team just wailing away with a bunch of targets and catches every year with no chances at a championship, because he'll have the perspective of going, it was pretty darn good in Philly when we were running the table and winning a bunch of championships, and listen, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if Philly over the next few years, because of what Howie Roseman does, doesn't go on and win more championships, whether A.J. Brown is there or not. So I think that's something that can really, change your perspective on anything. And so when things go poorly or when things go bad and you are at the bottom of things, you figure out pretty quickly that you have a choice in all this. Your attitude, your behavior, and effort are the only three things you could control, and everything else you can't. And so you're just wasting a bunch of your own time if you're trying to control other people. You can do all of those things really, really well too. And if you're playing a team sport and your coach is coaching it up in a different way where you may not get the ball, it still doesn't matter. You can't control that part of it. You should just, wake up, be grateful for being able to play a game for a living, a very well-paid job, in fact, and get a chance to win a second championship. I think there's a gratitude in that. And I think also, I don't want this to sound like it's some kind of preaching thing like that. I'm sure he is grateful for that. It just comes across in how the media relays this to everybody and what he's said and how it's been in the context it's been brought up in. It doesn't make him look good. And that's the bigger issue in all this. And I'm sure he's frustrated with that because, his teammates probably see him doing a lot of things that are worthwhile and not talked about on a daily basis in the media.
Ryan D. Leaf on Twitter and Instagram, and I understand the irony that we're promoting it and asking about the fact that you have A.J. Brown who's done this. Shedeur Sanders did it with a meme a few weeks ago before he was named the starting quarterback thanks to the injuries and other issues that have gone on in Cleveland. Is there a disconnect between certain athletes in this day and age in terms of what might play on social media and then what plays in real life, especially in the locker room with real grown adults and mature people?
Yeah, because social media is not real. So I think people believe it is. Like people who don't, who have 17 followers, and that's their life. They live in that world on a daily basis, and social media isn't real. It's not. There's nothing real about it. And this generation of kids and I think media even they believe it's real and it's just not. And so what goes on in your home, what goes on in your locker room, that's the real thing that's going on. You amplify, the not real of it all by contributing to it. I do it sometimes too. I just like to have fun with people. It's not real to me. I can, put out a quick tweet in 20 seconds and leave my phone down for the next 5 hours. And it's just, people have gone berserk. And I walk through the door of my house and I am dad to the kids and husband to the wife. And like that doesn't affect us in any way. But it affects a lot of people because they believe it to be real. And it's just not. And so I think that's a big part of this generation of things that's going on within the ability to kind of just do what you want. And you may be having fun with it, but people don't find it funny and people don't get your humor and they take it seriously, and it's just not. And so if you don't have the same mindset of what social media is to somebody else who's trying to make a point or trying to dissect something, those things are going to be at a disconnect, and there's nothing you can do about it because it will have a mind of its own. You yourself, when you look in the mirror, as long as you know and you understand that it's not real, then it can't affect you. There's no power to it. But there are other people that might think differently about that.
Ryan Leaf with us here in the Fast Lane, former quarterback turned broadcaster and Washington State product, who's with us because Washington State will be taking on JMU this coming weekend. Our very own TJ Wilkerson, who happens to be with us today in the Fast Lane, slated to be there at that game, covering it for us here on the Virginia Talk Radio Network. For Washington State, you've obviously seen them quite a bit with your duties with the CW and being a product of Washington State, Ryan. Am I off base in this observation? With all the challenges of the last couple of years, basically being one of the two leftovers from the now dissolved but soon to be returning Pac-12 conference in whatever form, they've had a remarkable year. Saw them against Virginia. They melted down late, but they've really found a way to keep things together, especially in an offseason which featured the loss of Jake Dickert to Wake Forest.
No, they've done a tremendous job. I thought Ann McCoy, who was tasked to hire two new head coaches, one for the men's basketball program and the other for the football program, the two main, money-making sports in athletic departments, she went out and found 2 really good ones. And Jimmy Rogers is a winner. I mean, that's all he's known. He's won a national championship as a coach. He's won another national championship as an assistant coach. He's just a winner. He wants to win, and he wants to build it the right way, and he believes in defense and running the football. You know, those are 2 things at Washington State that's never really truly been there. It's been about high-powered, throw it all over the field offense. And, you know, if your defense, as long as your defense makes one more stop than the other team, you know, people seem to like it. And so this year's been a little different in terms of consuming it from our fan base and everything like that. I don't think a lot of people have necessarily liked it. I've loved it. I like his style of coaching. I like his style of play. Their defense is unbelievable, and they're going to have a heck of a test. The Dukes are monsters. They can absolutely get it done offensively and defensively. So, you know, this makes for a really interesting game. I think Jimmy Rogers was an assistant coach the last time he made his way to Harrisonburg, and it wasn't a pretty day. South Dakota State University went there, and I think may have turned it over like 10 times. So we'll see what it's like. I expect them to play really well, though. I really do, and I think this is a good matchup. I think this is a good look at 2 of the conferences and 2 of the teams that you're going to see over the next decade, or at least to the next, you know, shakeup in the college football playoff media rights deal in 2031. These 2 teams, James Madison and Washington State, I think are going to be at the top. You're going to see those teams vying for that final playoff spot as the highest ranked conference champion out there. Really good opportunity for both of these teams to showcase that and kind of get to know one another.
The Cougs of Wazoo have gone through this. JMU, it appears they're going through it right now with the potential, and some would say imminent departure of Bob Chesney, whose name has been mentioned for plenty of head coaching vacancies. Is that a distraction the way it used to be? Or considering players are annual free agents, everybody just realizes, hey, if we ball out the remainder of this year, it only boosts our value and prospectus as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think these kids are do a pretty good job of compartmentalizing everything. You know, it's just how it works. They're always looking for the next thing, so it doesn't probably change their opinion much with what's about to happen with your head coach. You win at James Madison, you move on. It's just how it works, unfortunately. And they've done a good job at that. It's really powerful to see that this program and the culture stays the same regardless of who's at the helm of it. And that's an impressive culture to have in kind of a nondescript area there of Virginia, you know? So they've done a tremendous job with that. I think they'll move on and thank him for his contribution to the program, just like they did with Signetti, and move on to the next guy, and the culture stays the same, and the Dukes keep on going. And that's where we're at Washington State as well. You know, we thank Jake Dickert for what he did in stemming the tide during a really difficult time, and thank him for what he did. What we're doing is we're under the understanding that they're not alumni, they're not Cougs, they're not Dukes. What they are is they're being leased. You know, they're being leased, and they're doing their job the best of their ability. And if they do, they'll be rewarded for it. And that's what we've seen happen, you know, at both schools, realistically.
Ryan Leaf with us here in the Fast Lane, providing great perspective on Washington State and JMU in what should be a fun game this coming Saturday. Ryan D. Leaf on Twitter and Instagram, and the RyanDLeaf.com to learn more, including booking for opportunities with you, Ryan. Ryan, thank you for your time today in the Fast Lane. It's great to speak with you. And as always, congratulations. Now 13 years sober. I don't say this lightly or to blow smoke up your backside, because I've had challenges in my life. All of us have, with people that we know of or directly ourselves with addiction. But you're an inspiration, and it's awesome to have you continue to share your presence in the Fast Lane and how you can be a model for us with that.
Hey, man, I appreciate you anytime. And I'll be down there this week. You know, I'm going to bring my kiddo. He's going to be his first Coug game he's seen in person. I'm going to bring in a buddy of mine and his son, who was a JMU graduate. So we're going to, first time for me to Harrisonburg, and, you know, we're going to stay down at my golf club right outside Roanoke. So we're going to get a little fun in. It's my weekend off, so we're going to make it a family one.
Oh, that'll be a beautiful time. It's a gorgeous area. Roanoke's about 50 minutes or so from our Virginia Talk Radio Network studios. And if you see TJ at the game on Saturday, our esteemed producer, TJ Wilkerson, do not hold it against him that you happen to know me as well.
No worries, man. No worries. Tell those old Hokies down there, they got an unbelievable head coach coming in. He was the GA. James Franklin was the GA at Washington State my last year there, and he's a heck of a coach, and he's going to do a wonderful job there in Blacksburg. So I suspect to be down there soon enough speaking to the team. He always has me try to do something like that. So I'm excited for him and his family. I think that community is just really, really going to wrap their arms around him, and it's going to be a fun ride with him there at Virginia Tech.
Well, next time you're down this way, we'd love to catch up with you whenever the schedules align, Ryan. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the beautiful Commonwealth of Virginia when you come in this week, and we appreciate you as always, and we'll keep it locked to Ryan D. Leaf on Twitter and Instagram and theryandleaf.com.
You bet. Thanks.
Indeed. Ryan Leaf with us here in the Fast Lane. He has high praise for the James Franklin hire to Virginia Tech. When we return, someone else who does as well for a different angle. Chris Coleman of Techsideline.com next here in the Fast Lane.
It's the final countdown to savings during the Red Tag year-end sales event at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. Holiday savings have started, and this is your last chance to save. Shop local and save more with straightforward pricing, plus exceptional service and selection. Stop the search. Head to the Motor Mile for over 900 pre-owned vehicles to choose from, and a huge selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. 11 new car brands, 900 used vehicles, all in one location. The Sheeler Motor Mile gives you choices more than any other dealer in the area. Sheeler owns the finance company. We make it easy to buy with in-house financing. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume. 11 new car brands, over 900 used vehicles, all in one location. Our biggest sale of the year is here. The Red Tag year-end sales event at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com. But hurry, this sale ends when the new year begins.
This holiday season, take a step back in time to the heart of the 1940s. Join us at Cedar Oaks Farm in Bedford, Virginia for The Christmas List, a World War II era radio play recorded live to benefit the National Center for Healthy Veterans. Experience the story of the Bedford boys and their last Christmas before shipping out to serve their country. A moving night of laughter, love, and the true spirit of Christmas, featuring live music, classic sound effects, and a full cast performing just like the golden days of radio.
Jing-a-ling, 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 the night is made for sweet romancing. Ha, ho, through the snow we go.
Performances are December 12th and 13th at 7 p.m. and December 14th at 2 p.m. Tickets are on sale now at cedaroaksfarm.com, with proceeds benefiting the National Center for Healthy Veterans. Come share a nostalgic Christmas at Cedar Oaks Farm, where memories, music, and history come alive.
Hi, I'm Randy Trost. Our staff at Trost Law wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Most importantly, please celebrate responsibly. At Trost Law, we have experience handling all types of personal injury cases. Sadly, that means we've seen the devastating impact from drinking and driving. So on behalf of our team at Trost Law, please plan ahead. Select your designated driver this holiday season. And if you've been the victim of a drinking or drugged driver, we're here to help. Visit us at trostlaw.com.
Is it time for a new place to call home? Moving out on your own? Perhaps your existing lease is up for renewal. Looking for a new roommate? Or maybe you just need a change of scenery. Then you need to check out brownstoneproperties.com. We have Central Virginia's largest selection of apartments, townhomes, and single-family homes. Applying is easy with our online application. Visit us online to begin your search at brownstoneproperties.com.
Want an outdoor oasis? The Concrete Wizard can restore and revitalize your pool deck or patio. After the Concrete Wizard works the magic, your old, tired concrete will look new again. For pool decks, the Concrete Wizard can install a safe, innovative rubber surfacing option that's slip-resistant, soft, and easy on the feet. A great choice for families and anyone concerned about safety. Visit theconcretewizard.com for some ideas, then contact them today for a free consultation to create your perfect outdoor oasis.
Your home is more than just walls and windows. It's where life happens. And at Right Choice Construction, we get that.
We're not just builders, we're fathers, mothers, neighbors, just like you. And every nail and every beam reflects our commitment to creating a place you're proud to live in. With Right Choice Construction, you're choosing a team that's been perfecting the art of building for years. So build with us, build with experience, build with quality, build with Right Choice.
Step into the fast lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fastlane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the fast lane.
I would say we're in the early stages of our partnership with TechSideline.com. We're in the early stages of our friendship with Chris Coleman of TechSideline.com. Yes, we might be making fun of the report that came out Saturday on College Game Day, which clearly was a certain reporter, Pete Thamel, trying to protect a certain relationship, Jimmy Sexton, which is just the obvious what he said and what he meant. We're not going to play the whole soundbite. But was that something that everyone was just waiting for? We'll ask Chris Coleman of TechSideline.com, who joins us now on the Fast Lane. Chris, you guys have been on the James Franklin of Virginia Tech news well before the early stages came to fruition on Saturday, said tongue firmly planted in cheek. Was this merely just waiting for it to get across the finish line, or were there actual hangups to this deal coming to fruition as it did before Monday's official leak and announcement?
There might have been some minor little details here and there. Obviously, they had the Penn State buyout to clear up, and I think that finally took place on Friday or Saturday. Obviously, there was a plane ride from Blacksburg to Penn State on Friday night. But it's something that I've been expecting to happen for the last couple of weeks.
Was there ever a concern that Auburn would be more appealing, or Florida State would find it at $50 million or so that they don't have from the ACC, but somehow would have to get rid of Mike Norvell? And by the way, the more money they need to bring Franklin on. Or was this merely a matter of just the logistics of getting the Penn State buyout situation resolved and then being able to finalize the deal between Virginia Tech and Franklin, and yes, his agent, Jimmy Sexton?
I think Virginia Tech and Franklin was really the only realistic choice. I don't think Auburn was a natural fit for him, so I don't think he ever considered that one. I don't think schools like Florida and LSU and Auburn hire fired football coaches, so I don't think that was ever an option. And I think Florida State, like, if they were going to fire Norvell, they would have done it after he lost 9 ACC games in a row. It just doesn't seem like they have the money to do it. And even if they just barely scrape the money together to do it, where would they come up with the money to satisfy Franklin's NIL demands? I just don't think it was in the cards for them to do any of that this year. And after spending $400 million on renovations and facilities and things like that. So, you know, all those are reasons why I was always confident he would end up at Virginia Tech.
Chris Coleman, TSL. That's his Twitter handle, TechSideline.com. The ways to keep up with him in the latest Tech Sideline podcast. To get my usher on for a moment, I have listened to the podcast. I have also listened to your colleague Andy Bitter on the Morning Warm Up with Trey Lyle, 7 to 8 a.m. weekdays, VTR and Sports app, because of all of that. But to get Mike Usher on for a moment, I have not read your recent article about targets for James Franklin now that he is at Virginia Tech. Is the entire board the option that you went with?
Something like that. You know, there were a lot of commitments in Penn State's class this year. 17 of them had decommitted. Most of them have actually found homes elsewhere. And I actually think the vast majority of them will stick with those commitments. But there were other Penn State commits, obviously very loose commits, but those guys were still technically committed to Penn State. And you've seen a lot of them taking visits over the last few weeks, which means they're seriously open to go to other schools. It's amazing that like all of them but one had open weekends this coming weekend. Like they've been visiting schools in November. They'll visit schools the last week, but all of them had wide open schedules for this coming weekend. It's amazing how that works out. So I kind of think they've known for a while now where Franklin was going to end up. And yeah, I mean, I think you'll see a number of those. Some of them you've already seen announced that they're going to visit Blacksburg this weekend. And, you know, you'll probably see a large number more throughout the course of the week. And then some of those guys will end up in Blacksburg, yes.
Chris Coleman with us here in the Fast Lane. We're looking at the James Franklin effect on Virginia Tech from an overall recruiting standpoint. When we look back in a couple of years, James Franklin will be as successful of a talent acquirer as he was at Penn State. He'll be 90%, 80%, 73%, 50% as effective. What would you peg as far as how effective James Franklin will be at bringing talent to Virginia Tech, similar to the way he was so effective at Penn State?
I don't know if it'll be quite as effective, but he's still going to be very effective. And for the vast, vast majority of his recruiting classes at Penn State, it's not a valid comparison anymore because now you've got NIL and revenue share, right? And that's only been a thing for 2 or 3 years now. In fact, revenue sharing only kicked in starting this season. So it's going to be really hard to compare what guys do from now forward to what they did in the past because of all those new dynamics that it brought to it. But, I think he's definitely going to kickstart Virginia Tech recruiting. I think there will be an excitement about it, unlike we've seen here in quite a while, and he'll get into more living rooms. We'll have more opportunities than we've had in quite a while.
Will Virginia Tech go back to being the premier destination for recruits from the Commonwealth of Virginia? Maybe not what it was before everything became as transient as it is, but certainly not to the point where at least half of the top 10 recruits annually are fleeing the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Yeah, maybe something like that. But honestly, at Virginia Tech's peak, I think their best year ever, they signed 6 out of the top 10. And generally they were in the 4 or 5 range. That was their average. Occasionally it was as low as 2, sometimes as high as 6. I think they can get back to that level. Yes. But it's important not to focus on just the top 10 guys. There's a bunch of players from the state of Virginia playing big roles for the Indiana Hoosiers this year. And none of those guys were top 10 guys. They were guys nobody wanted out of high school. So it's still very, very important in this state to evaluate, not just sign top 10 guys, sign top 40 guys, right? Because there is still talent that good evaluators can find that aren't in the top 10, top 15 recruits in the state.
Chris Coleman, TSL, TechSideline.com, the ways to keep up with him on Twitter and the internet, respectively. Chris, for Virginia Tech, is the biggest part of James Franklin to Virginia Tech the fact that now not only does the fan base have hope, but that they are now conveyed as a serious football brand once again in a situation where everybody's jockeying for positioning ahead of 2030?
Yeah, I think that's exactly accurate. I think the fan base needed a major shot in the arm. It's one thing to have a board of visitors meeting where they say, yeah, we're going to throw this amount of money at it and things like that. But then the fan base needs to see it actually happen. And now they've seen it happen. And near as I can tell, everybody's very, very excited. And I do think it kind of announces their intention to everybody that they are going to try their hardest to be very competitive and very good in football yet again. And I think hiring James Franklin accomplishes both of those goals.
What does it do for Virginia Tech in terms of your outlook for them in the ACC pantheon heading into next season?
Well, I think it's a good time to make the hire. We talked about Norvell earlier. Florida State, I'm sure, doesn't really want him anymore. Certainly their fans don't, but they don't have enough money to get rid of him. If you look at Clemson, Dabo's really struggling in this free transfer era because he just didn't take very many transfers. He likes to build from within and everything like that. So their performances are up and down these days. You never know what you're getting out of Miami. So with the way you can turn over a roster, Virginia Tech can be back relatively quickly. We saw last year, we saw Arizona State in the college football playoffs, and the year before that, they were 3-9. So it can happen a lot quicker these days than it used to.
Financial investment for James Franklin. His contract is one thing, but the overall ability to procure and retain talent, how sustainable is this financial commitment that's being made to him?
That's a great question. I think the financial commitment from a coaching staff standpoint, the financial commitment for a player standpoint, I think they need to revamp their Hokie club, and I think they're going to do that. I think a lot of this is being accomplished through some very good accounting at the university level, of course, and then they've got some very generous donors that are coming in to plug the gap. You can't expect the exact same people every year to keep throwing millions and millions and millions of it into it. So they've got to expand the reach of their Hokie club and get things up and running there. And if they have success on the field as early as next year, then they should be able to do that with the right hires.
When you look at the right hires, we will go ahead and add into that the overall coaching staff. If you had to peg, you mentioned Brooks, the running backs coach, is a likely retainer. A lot of people have pointed to Fontel Mines. First of all, what's the likelihood that Anthony Poindexter comes in, joins Fontel Mines, and maybe you can find a role for Marcus Hagans, and you can announce it all after the Virginia game to really troll UVA fans?
Oh boy, that would be something else, wouldn't it? I think that's possible. Whether it works out exactly like that, I don't know. It would be really interesting to see 3 UVA guys want to work at Virginia Tech. Now, obviously, Virginia Tech's going to be able to pay very, very, very high salaries, and that's always going to be tempting. But at the same time, I would kind of expect one of those 3 guys to be like, yeah, I don't know, I feel kind of bad about this. But it wouldn't shock me if mine stayed, because, of course, Franklin is rumored to have tried to hire him to Penn State before. And I could see one of those guys coming in, too. For all I know, it could be all 3. We'll just have to wait and see. But wouldn't shock me if there were, like, 2 UVA guys on the staff next year.
Boy, that would be something else. Maybe more UVA guys than Virginia Tech guys on the staff, which would be rather amusing. Holdovers. Brooks was one you mentioned. How many? Are you looking at about 3? Do you put Jared Ferguson in that, or is generally a new head coach probably going to bring in his own strength and conditioning guy? What do you view as the holdovers from the prior administration?
You know, I think Ferguson could be a possibility. I know Penn State had an outstanding strength coach up there, so they could bring him in. That they could try to have both of them on the same staff. That's what I would try to, was if I could, if it was at all possible. I don't know exactly the names at this point. We'll see about offensive line coach. I think it would be a shame for Virginia Tech to have their 5th offensive line coach in 6 seasons. So if he was comfortable with Matt Moore, I would kind of like to see that. I think he'll probably bring in his GM, Andy Frank, from Penn State. I think he's got most of his staff set. I'm not saying he got everybody set, but it wouldn't shock me because he got at least half of his guys locked in at this point, because he's been thinking about this for at least 3 weeks, and I heard a meeting of a couple weeks ago when he did interviews with the committee and started running off the staff members' names that he would bring, who he would retain, and all that. So I think quite a lot of it's already set in stone. Obviously, you just can't have announcements until the season's over.
Chris Coleman, TSL, TechSideline.com, the ways to keep up with him. We're at Fastlane, Edlane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, however you listen to podcasts, including Facebook Live and YouTube. And we're on W227BG Timberlake, WVGM, AM Lynchburg, WMNA, Gretna, Danville, Southside, and the VTRN Sports app. It's a sign of the times that these reports have come out in the last week. Cal QB Jaron Kiawe Sacramatelli, not joking here, recommitted to Cal and pledged not to enter the portal. What an era. Meanwhile, reports came out today, Arizona State Sam Levitt, all but likely to leave. It is termed doubtful that he will return to Arizona State because, quote, his camp is actively shopping him around, end quote. How many impact transfers do you expect Virginia Tech to add this offseason?
I can't put a number on it, but it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot. I mean, he's been given a very big budget. Look, for a coach like Franklin, who knows what players cost these days and the type of payroll budget you need, he's not going to take a job anywhere unless he feels like he's got the tools to be successful. So it's my understanding that Virginia Tech has committed very high salary, with their obviously with the revenue sharing that they've already got, but an increase in NIL funding either that's going to make them extremely competitive. So they shouldn't have any trouble at all rebuilding their roster. And, to add on to that, he's going to have a week and a half or so to watch this team practice, watch this team play, and figure out the guys on the roster he wants to retain. But, yeah, I would expect there to be a very large amount of player movement in the offseason.
When you mention that, are we looking at a roster flip similar to what we've seen at, your North Carolinas, your Colorados, your other big name movements? Granted, this is not going to be as distraction oriented as Coach Prime and Bill Belichick. We have to get the algorithms up by mentioning their names. But do you expect that to be a roster where 73, 80% of the roster is new players.
I don't know if I would put it at quite Belichickian levels, but it wouldn't shock me if it was 50% or more. They're going to sign a decent amount of high school recruits, I think, probably more than I thought they would back when, Pry was coaching. It didn't look like it was going to be a big class, but now I think it's going to be a bigger class. But they're not going to leave any stone unturned. They're not going to – if they can upgrade their roster, I think he's going to be open to doing it at pretty much any position. I'll put it this way. There's not if he can find a good player at any position right now, he would take him. There's not one single spot, not one single position on the roster that doesn't need at least one player added to it. I would say fairly significant turnover.
A lot is what we are expecting from Virginia Tech. Chris, we'll wrap it up on this, and we're grateful for your time today here in the Fast Lane. A lot of great content already at techsideline.com and the latest TSL podcast about James Franklin to Virginia Tech and the introduction that's going to happen tomorrow in Blacksburg. We will carry it, by the way, VTR and Sports app, 10 a.m. right here on your home for Virginia Tech athletics. But one of the things that's been brought up, the volume of decommits from the biggest openings. Now, LSU, I think, is in their own classification because, you, Trey, TJ, and I, and Andy could be the coaching staff, and a lot of those kids would go there just because that's what you do in Louisiana. Florida did not have as many. You could point that as an evaluation problem. But Penn State's volume of decommitments sitting at 17. Again, we mentioned not all of them are coming to Blacksburg. What does that say, though, about the James Franklin effect and the fact that other players who are uncommitted or on the fence may now flock to Virginia Tech because James Franklin is here?
I think Penn State's going to be fine if they hire the right coach, but I do think that says something about James Franklin as a recruiter and just the unique quality and the draw he is to players. He's an excellent communicator. He's very assured. He's very confident. He's the type of coach. He says the type of things you want to hear as a recruit. I mean, and I don't mean the type of stuff where you're like begging a recruit to come to your school. He has an air of confidence and assuredness that if I was a recruit, that's the type I would want to play for. So I think he made a big impact on Penn State recruiting, and he's going to bring quite a lot of that to Blacksburg too, because the carryover in the recruiting region. Virginia Tech is in Penn State. There's a lot of overlap there. They're going to be recruiting Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania. He'll probably dip down into the Carolinas a little more than he did when he was at Penn State, but overall, it's just going to be a very similar profile.
It's interesting. It's fascinating, and we'll keep it locked to techsideline.com. Chris, thank you for your time today. We're grateful for you joining us on such clunky notice with the announcement coming right before the show yesterday. But hey, if you thought you were distracted, your colleague Andy Bitter had to postpone his entire class and look like a bad professor, so you don't come across looking as bad as he did. So take grace in that.
Hey, appreciate that, Ed. Take it easy, man.
Our pleasure. Chris Coleman with us here, and we say that tongue-in-cheek for Andy Bitter, who joined Trey Lyle in the Fast Lane and has also had excellent coverage. Meanwhile, we are done for today. Champions Classic, 6:30 tonight, double dip of college basketball, and then tomorrow, TJ is taking over Wednesday instead of Friday in the Fast Lane. TJ, are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
Can't wait.
Ready.
You'll have more recap on the James Franklin press conference, plus other developments in the Fast Lane, VTR and Sports app, and at that smart speaker, Open VTR and Sports.
The Duke have been decided by a total of 16 points. Great night coming up here from MSG.